Now and then there comes upon the stage of life, in the theater of this world, a man who so differs from the rest of the innumerable caravan that moves to that mysterious realm where each shall take his chamber in the silent halls of death, that he catches the eye and ear at once, and, as long as he moves in the scene, holds the attention of his fellows. When the sable curtain falls, and his part in the drama is over, we who remain to fill the minor roles find time and moments of reflection to ask ourselves, what manner of man was this, and wherein did he differ from the others of his kind? By what mysterious alchemy did the elements in him combine to lift him to the stars, while we, who just as earnestly, with upturned eyes and patient longing, strive to reach the realms of the immortals, stumble and fall, perish, and are forgotten? On the 13th day of July, in the year 1821, in a rude frontier cabin, amid surroundings which told of poverty, and in the obscurity of a remote backwoods settlement of Middle Tennessee, there was born one of these rare beings. The light which first greeted his infant vision came through the cracks and the chinking between the logs of hewn cedar, or sent its penetrating rays beneath the riven boards of the roof, which in overlapping rows were laid upon the rafters and held in place by heavy poles and blocks in lieu of nails. This humble cabin...
Pace yourself. There's no rush. We have lots of time.
This humble cabin was his mother's home. This humble cabin, which was his mother's home, claimed no more than 18 by 20 feet of earth to rest upon, with a single room below and a half-room or loft overhead. One end of this building was almost entirely given up to the broad fireplace, while near the middle of each side swung on wooden hinges a door. There was no need of a window, for light and air found ready access to the doorways and cracks, and down through the wide, squatty chimney. A pane of glass was a luxury as yet unknown to this primitive life. Around and near the house was a cleared patch of land containing several acres enclosed with a straight stake fence of cedar rails, and by short cross fences divided into a yard immediately about the cabin. Rearward of this garden, and a young orchard of peach, apple, pear, and plum trees, the yard fence ran parallel with the public road so newly cut through the forest that stumps and roots of trees still showed above the level of the ground, waiting to be removed by the slow process of decay. Across the highway, squatting among the giant cedars of the Duck River... Do I really have
River. I want to visit Duck River.
Do I really have a southern drawl, Lurkcopter? I live in the Pacific Northwest.
Maybe he's just really bad at recognizing accents.
I wouldn't know. I tend to only hear the thick accents.
Squatting among the giant cedars of the Duck River country stood a log blacksmith shop, with bellows and forge, anvil, tongs, and hammer, and the other simple paraphernalia of an artisan in iron. And here, week in, week out, from morn till night, the sparks flew in showers from the red-hot metal as the skillful hand and powerful arm of the workmen, with turning tongs and sturdy blows of the hammer, wrought the half-molten mass into useful shape. The owner of the shop was William Forrest, blacksmith, then 21 years of age, more than 6 feet in height, with the heavy, muscular development of a mechanic. He was an honorable man and a law-abiding citizen, sober and industrious. This I have from a perfectly reliable source, from one who lived a near neighbor and knew him well. He must have been this and more to have won the love and devotion of Miriam Beck, the woman of extraordinary character, who on this day first held to a mother's breasts her twin-born hostages to fortune, his son and daughter. If, as was natural on this eventful day, his heart swelled with the pride of paternity and a father's love, what height of ecstasy might not this humble workman have reached could he have seen through the curtain of the future and read the horoscope of that firstborn boy of his, who was destined to write his name on one of the loftiest tablets of the immortals in the Temple of Fame?
I really
This-
like that he was. If only he could have seen into the future and seen his son become a grand wizard of an organization specifically founded to kill Negroes. I mean, just imagine if your dad figured out ahead of time that that was what you were going to do. I don't really see how that would be a good thing, but maybe that's
What?
just me.
Well, his dad was from Tennessee, Arthur.
That is an excellent point.
I'm reading The Life of General Nathan Bedford Forrest, and on 6881.
Which so far is a fascinating book.
But this was...
I was just going to say, hey, it helps relieve the monotony of the game that's being shown.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, there's quite a bit of flowery prose, but that is usually the case of 19th century literature, so I'm more than glad to settle for that. Because, shit, I'm basically just, my eyes are glazed over, I'm just listening to Dotai reading and pressing buttons once in a while. Works fine for me.
But this was not to be. For 3 generations, the Forrests had belonged to that restless race of pioneers who, in search of home and fortune, had followed close upon the heels of the savages. As these were driven farther and farther towards the setting sun, while there was yet a narrow fringe of civilization along the Atlantic coast, they were content to dwell among the foothills of the eastern slope of the Alleghenies. But when the hardy Anglo-Saxon race began in earnest to cross the sea and establish more numerous settlements there, these bold and self-reliant frontiersmen, with wives and children, packing up their small store of household goods, gathered in little colonies, yoked their oxen to the wagons, turned their backs upon the Atlantic, and, cutting as they went a trail across the eastern divide, plunged into the vast wilderness of the valley of the Mississippi. Among this class of men was Shadrach Forrest, who, about 1740, moved from Virginia into the colony of North Carolina, settling in that section of country which afterwards became Orange County when that state was admitted to the Union. Here he lived many years, was married, and reared a large family of children. Among these children of Shadrach Forrest was Nathan, the second son, who had married in North Carolina a Miss Bow, descended from an Irish family which had immigrated to that section of the New World. William Forrest, the blacksmith and the father of the distinguished general, was the firstborn child of this marriage, having seen the light of day about the year 1798.
It's almost breeding time.
Oh boy.
Level 3 and bam! Notre! Our next level 4 Demon Horse. Excellent.
back.
Now all we need is to train in up and then we can breed our level 5.
And then we'll only need to get 3 more.
Yeah.
3 more.
Seriously, we'll be 40% done with the game.
Yeah,
40%.
that'll be very nice.
That will be the time of our lives.
Alright, so, Nathan Forrest, with the restlessness and enterprise characteristic of his race, accompanied by his aged father and his own family, among whom was William Forrest, then 8 years of age, immigrated in 1806 to Tennessee and settled north of the Cumberland River, not far from the present town of Gallatin in Sumner County. Not satisfied with their surroundings, 2 years later, pushing further into the wilderness, they finally established themselves in the Duck River County in 1808. In what was then Bedford County, Tennessee. Here, as William Forrest grew to manhood, he learned the blacksmith's trade, which was his vocation, when, in 1820, he married Miriam Beck. I obtained from Mr. J.B. Boyd, an aged and respected citizen of Holt's Corner in this section of Tennessee, the following reliable information concerning the Forrest family a few years after their arrival in Bedford County. The grandfather of General N.B. Forrest, whose first name was Nathan, lived within a half-mile of my father's house. In my early boyhood, he had a small farm and nursery of fruit trees. He was the father of 8 children, 5 boys and 3 girls. William, the oldest son and the father of General Forrest, was a blacksmith by trade. The other sons of Nathan Forrest were principally engaged as traders in livestock, except one who was a tailor. None followed farming as an occupation while living in this community. There are now none of the name living here. While I was yet quite a small boy, Nathan Forrest, the General's grandfather, sold his place and moved about 5 miles distant. Whether William Forrest, the General's father, continued to work at the blacksmith trade after leaving our immediate neighborhood, I am unable to say. Nathan Bedford Forrest, who afterwards became so famous, was born in Bedford County, in that portion which was afterwards cut off to form in part the county of Marshall. The house in which he was born was a log cabin of the primitive kind, built by the early settlers in this then backwoods country. It stood a little less than a half-mile from where the village of Chapel Hill now stands. But at the time of which I write, this country was very sparsely settled, and there was as yet no such place as Chapel Hill. This house was torn down many years ago. The Forrest family were all energetic, high-minded, straightforward people. I have never heard of any of them being dissipated or connected with anything that was disreputable.
Sounds almost a bit too clean-cut, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even his family is completely fault-free, with not a single one of them ever being involved in any sort of cloaks and daggers. I don't know.
I still stand by my Mary Sue comment earlier.
Nathan Bedford Forrest is not a fictional character.
I know. It's just the way the man is writing them.
A real-life Mary Sue.
Yeah,
Forrest can do no wrong.
pretty much.
In 18...
Sorry to abruptly cut in here, but I wonder if we should actually start working on getting together the foals for the next generation. Figure out what horse is going to come next.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good thing to start asking people about.
Of William Forrest, but little is known beyond the fact that he worked at his trade steadily and earnestly in this sparsely settled backwoods country to support a family which rapidly gathered about the fireside as the years of his married life went swiftly by. He is said to have been a man who possessed great determination and courage, and to have exercised a considerable influence in the small community in which he moved. In 1834, when Nathan Bedford Forrest was just 13 years of age, William Forrest, with his wife and children, moved from Middle Tennessee into northern Mississippi, to that portion of the state which had been occupied by the Indians. The Aborigines, having been transferred to reservations beyond the Mississippi, whose lands were open to settlers, and thither he immigrated and earned a homestead on the banks of a small stream in Tippah County, not far from the present village of Salem. Here, in 1837, when the subject of this sketch was not quite 16 years of age, his father died, leaving him the head of a family consisting of his widowed mother, 6 brothers, and 3 sisters.
Jesus Christ. Talk about a tough starting position.
And...
No, go ahead.
And to these was added, 4 months later, his brother Geoffrey, a posthumous child. And there's a footnote, but there's no actual footnote. Not sure what's going on with that.
Perhaps he puts his footnotes at the end of the book. Might be a footnote indexed right at the back.
I'll check. Oh, yes, there is. Let me see.
And yes, Lurkopter, a posthumous child, that is, that he made his wife pregnant and then died, which means that the child was born after the biological father's death.
Well, anyway. General Forrest...
Please.
General for... sorry. General Forrest's mother was of Scotch extraction, her parents having emigrated from South Carolina and settled near what is now known as Caney Springs, not far from Duck River in Middle Tennessee, about the time of the admission of the state into the Union in 1796. Mr. Boyd writes me, "The family of the General's mother, Miss Marion Beck, lived near Caney Springs Post Office, but they have all either died or emigrated from the place." Mentally and physically, Marion Beck was a remarkable woman. In stature, she was almost 6 feet, of large muscular frame, and weighed about 180 pounds. Her hair was dark, her eyes a bluish-gray, her expression gentle and kind. And yet no one who saw the prominent cheekbones, the broad forehead, and the deep lines of her face could doubt that she possessed great force of character, a determination of will, and unusual courage.
What the heck is up with this family, seriously? Both mother and father are 6 foot plus muscle monsters of excellent character and mental fortitude. What was in the water back then? Holy shit.
I wish I knew.
I mean, in the mid-1800s, you have a woman who's 6 foot tall, 180 pounds.
That's like unheard of.
Not mid-1800s. Early 1800s.
Which just
And
makes it
possibly
even
late
worse.
1700s.
Jesus.
I mean, it happened. It wasn't common, but
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of understand now why the family had influence. I mean, even its women were bigger than most men. What was everyone supposed to do? Say no? She'd pick them up and smack the shit out of them and put them back down. I've changed my mind.
you will listen to me.
I am in full agreement with the Forrest family, sir.
Just, wow.
Now, please, more stories about the Forrests. Do go on.
Alright. Hers was the ruling spirit of the household, and although strict and severe with her children, it may be said with perfect truthfulness that she won their affectionate love and retained it throughout her life.
Won it. She did not deserve it, but she won it. Through military conquest. You will love me, or I will smack you again. Yes, mother.
Bedford Forrest's love for his mother amounted to adoration, and was one of the noblest features of this great man's character. It is said of this mother of the Gracchi, who gave 8 sons to the service of her country, that she was in her family as well as in her neighborhood, self-willed and imperious to a degree that having undertaken any enterprise, she persisted in it until it was. Oh, I'm sorry. She persisted in it until it was accomplished. It is more than likely that this marked trait in the character of her distinguished son was inherited chiefly from the mother's side. For, once convinced that he was right, his determination to accomplish his end was characterized by a fixedness of purpose which brooked no opposition, and at times bore down with almost savage fierceness upon all who stood in his path.
Oh God. I can really see this woman before me, seriously. An incredibly headstrong woman that refuses to back down and wins the affection of others by proving just how much of a lesser they are. It's just this sort of woman that, figures, you know what, I'm gonna move that rock because I don't like where it's sitting, and then a few hours later the rock is moved, and everyone is just staring, and they have no idea how it happened, and then she goes, "What are you staring at?" and everyone just runs off. It's like a cartoon character.
Yeah. Lurkopter has mentioned that the book kind of reads like something generated by Dwarf Fortress.
I need to go for a second. I'll be back very soon.
Okay.
Man. I don't really care about Nathan Bedford Forrest very much. I need to hear more about his family.
I think his mom's the real story here.
Yeah, I mean, what the heck is up with that?
6 foot 180, muscle bound. Wow. That's just crazy.
And not to mention that she apparently, as the bookman mentioned, that in the end she gave 8 sons. to her country, which means that she had 5 sons and 3 daughters. And then apparently she had 3 further sons with her second husband. If she was nothing if not productive.
Yeah. To say the least.
Let's see, 1 strength run, and then all second level 4s will be done, and then we can finally breed our next level 5. Yes!
Yes!
Yes! Yes!
I don't know why. M. Bison.
Bison yes.mp4. I literally have that file on my hard drive.
I believe it.
Every time I meet with great success or something amazing happens somewhere in the world, I just open it up and listen to it. It's a small sermon of mine. And yes, Lurkopter, I do suspect that if, you know, Forrest's mother had been allowed to join the army instead of him, she would probably have cleaned up. She would have led a bayonet charge with 600 casualties with none taken.
Oh boy, we're almost done. Almost done.
We're almost done with 1 more horse type.
Alright, I am back.
Welcome back. I am curious though, is it ever mentioned how William Forrest died? Because it seems that N.B. Forrest's father just suddenly died when he was 16. There doesn't seem to be any real mention as to what killed him.
No, it does not say.
He died of a very severe cause of death.
The #1 killer of the people of the world is death.
True words have spoken. Oh god. Puck, no. Lethal hemorrhoids is something I do not even want to think about. Well, maybe that's the story. It wasn't actually his father that died. It was his mother. And the father, immediately realizing that his children needed a proper mother figure, simply shouldered the dress and lived on. That would explain so many things. My god. Alright, Charlotte the level 5 demon horse.
Should we maybe change the language back to English so that we can read the description of the next Magic Crystal mission?
No.
Okay then.
You were stupid enough to vote for French, this is what you get.
I voted for English, Arthur.
Well, maybe you should have spent more on lobbying so that you actually won the election.
No one could hear me speak.
Yeah, there was that, wasn't it?
Yeah. My great-great-great-grandfather fought in the Civil War as well.
Why am I being yelled at? I'm not the one complaining. That's Dotai complaining.
Yeah, but you're just sitting there with arms crossed and pouting instead, that's even worse.
You don't know that.
We can hear your pouting from here.
It's seeping through my headphones.
Liquid pout just dripping out.
And to be perfectly honest, Chef Ace, I took a semester of French and don't know a damn word off the top of my head.
Baguette.
Bread.
Merci.
Pan. Yeah, pan.
Merci means thank you, but
I was gonna. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. I was second guessing myself.
alright then. Bonjour.
Good day.
Buongiorno.
Good evening.
Italian.
Different language.
There you go. See.
French, Italian, what's the difference? Am I right?
Close enough.
Close enough. I mean, come on, it's only like, what, 100 miles or something like that? Nations are pretty much right next to one another.
I could probably spit from one to the other, but anyway.
Yeah. But basically, being a person that has traveled through Europe, I'm basically the sort of person that if I can basically read Spanish, French, German, and Italian to the point where I can understand what a text is about, but I can't figure out the details.
But that's enough, isn't it?
Yeah, it at least helps me get on the right footing.
But I, myself, had a great-great-great-grandfather who was involved in the Civil War.
But was he a grand wizard?
No, he was not a wizard.
Oh.
But he did commit genocide.
Ooh.
That's almost as good.
What
Yeah,
wonderful
there was
battle was he a part of?
Oh, well. He was in charge of the... he was commanding during the Battle of Cottonwood Ranch, as well as the attack on Chief Lookinglass's camp. They were both horrific failures, and he was promptly demoted out of a command position.
I like to believe that he failed horribly in an actual even battle and then decided, come on, just give me one more chance. And I say, okay, go talk to these Native Americans. And he comes back and he says, alright, I killed them all. And they're like, no!
The attack on Chief Lookinglass's camp was such a horrific failure that more people joined the other side as a result.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
And at the Battle of Cottonwood Ranch, the Nez Perce, who were just fleeing, walked right around his men. And he didn't notice.
Hey, when did they... Oh. On the other hand, well, it's easy to forget just how terrible communications and actual, active visual range was back in the day. You read these ridiculous stories about the Napoleonic Wars were due to, smoke from gunpowder and general confusion. Units will actually line up next to one another and march in the same direction, thinking that it's their allies, and then suddenly they just turn and realize that it's the wrong flag. And you're like, oh, right. Affix bayonets. Sharp turn right and stab those dudes. Yeah, the guys in the blue uniforms. I think the uniforms are blue, bluish grey. They're all very dirty. Anyway, stab the guys that don't understand what language you're speaking. Which, of course, also was a problem when you realize that many of these wars took place with, like 9 or 10 European nations involved, and they had their sub-nations and various provinces speaking different languages, which means that within a single army they could be up to 7 different languages spoken by different units. Which of course means that no one had any fucking idea what was going on once the battle was actually joined and people started smashing into one another. And that's all part of the fun.
Yep.
Random.
And how are we doing? Well, this is our level 5 horse. Once we level this up a bit, we will go do the quest that we need to get the next magic crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah,